rocking with some of the realest coaches in the game. Coach RB and Coach CB. Area code 459.
What up, Area Code 459 Podcast? It's your boy, Coach RB. I'm here with my co-host, Coach CB. What's up, Caitlin?
What's up, Coach B? How you doing?
Man, I'm blessed, man. We got some special guests in the house tonight. But before we get to our guests in our episode, let's go ahead and thank some people.
Man, we just want to give a huge shout out to East Bay In-House Ink and J-Made Crafts for helping us create our logo and help us get our business going. We have our merchandise. Again, we just opened our East Bay store. So if you guys want some gear, go there to our website and click on that link. Also couldn't have done this without our family, our friends, and most importantly, God for the vision and all of the support to help us get this going.
Here we go. We are in our second episode of our mini-series for the culture. This one is called The Look, like we did with our last mini-series episode called The Talk. We started with a short video, so Caitlin, run that video for me. Man, thank you, PNG, for that awesome video, man. We're going to jump right into our guests. First, I have the opportunity and the honor to introduce a young lady that hails on the West Coast of the United States. She is a business leader and social justice advocate on a journey towards global prosperity throughout human connection and collaboration. She has been a leader in the tech industry since 2010. She is a founder and the connect-in-chief of We360, where she works to help shape the future of the workplace culture to meet the needs of the modern society in all of its diversity. She is an innovator. She is a mentor. She's a speaker. She's a motivator and a highly recommended voice to change right now. Welcome, and it's an honor, Miss Dominique Hollins.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
I'm super excited to introduce our second guest. She is originally from Montgomery, Alabama, where while she's in high school, she was ranked number 54 on the player rankings in class of 2017. While she was in high school, she was named Alabama Gatorade Player of the Year, Miss 5A Basketball Player of the Year, and then she was also named 5 to 7A Basketball Player of the Year as well, where she was 4-time All-State First Team Selection, which I'm All-State in the city of Montgomery. Also number 4 on Montgomery City history with 2,177 career points. From there, she took her talents to the University of South Carolina, where she started 25 out of 36 games as a freshman, was named to the freshman SEC All-First Team. And then in her 2 years while she was at South Carolina, she averaged 39% from behind the arc, which is crazy. And then as a sophomore, she helped South Carolina reach the NCAA Sweet 16 After her sophomore year, she transferred to Florida State, where she'll complete her eligibility and continue making an impact on the court. So let's welcome Miss Bianca Jackson. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
There you go. There you go. Well, guys, I have the opportunity and the honor to introduce our episode today. The video that we saw is called The Look. It's such a big byproduct of what it means to be an American. When someone reads the Declaration of Independence, this was the outcry or the want to be seen as an equal by the colonists back in 1776. It sets the stage of the ideals and the principles of what this country has been built on. That all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And attached to it, which a lot of people don't talk about this, are grievances or issues. Like then, colonists wanted their British brethren to see them as equals. And today, many Blacks are asking that same question. Are we equal? What needs to be accomplished for a Black person to be worthy of respect, protection, success, opportunity, especially since it's been over 155 years since the passing of the 13th Amendment, and it's been over 56 years since the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. How much more needs to be done? We ask America to not look over the justice and our constant to not look over the justice and our growth together, but wants to continue to allow people to, we don't want them to continue to allow people to overlook how many Blacks have been raised, things they have done to build success, like earn education, securing respectable jobs, and to be played out by this cheap narrative of thugs, predators, criminals, and threats to society. With all that being said, I want to cover the look today. And so this first question is going to be for Miss Bianca Jackson. When you first saw that video that we just went over, the look, how did you immediately react about watching the look? And what were your overall impressions of
it? For me, it's just something that you see every day. You know, the look is like when you out in everyday society and people look at each other, they see each other, and you never really know, like, are you being judged? Are you not being judged? Why are you being judged? And it shouldn't be that. In my opinion, it's just something that we shouldn't have videos like this where we shouldn't have to have these conversations. You know, it should be okay to be who you are, whatever you look like or wherever you're from. I feel like it should be okay from both sides of the table. So that's just how I feel about the situation.
And I do appreciate your comments on that, because when I looked at it, my overall impression was he was doing everyday things, right? Going to dinner, going to buy a suit. Coach B loves his suits. Teaching son how to swim. And then he was going to his job, which happens to be, you know, and I was telling Caitlin this, the highest, most prestigious job you can have in the federal government, because judgeships are for life. And he still got the look. Like, everyone looked at him like, does he really, really belong? You know, does he really meet that standard? And, you know, when you look at these incidents and these murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Trayvon Martin, the first thing people ask is not, will this person get an opportunity to kiss their loved one again? Will they have the opportunity to teach a swimming lesson? Will they have an opportunity to buy a suit? They don't look at the human spirit of that person. They always ask, well, what were they doing there? Why were they even there? Or what look did they present at that time or that situation? So, you know, I agree with you, and I appreciate your comments on why are we still having a video like this, but it's a necessary thing to have at this moment.
Yeah, and I like that you use the word judge, because we're always taught not to judge a book by its cover. But it seems like us as humans, that's always negated. Like, we always judge somebody by what they look like and how they present themselves. And, you know, a first impression always happens in the first 30 seconds of meeting somebody. But, you know, for the Black community, sometimes that number gets dropped. You know, it becomes less than 30 seconds. It's just me looking at you, or like other people looking at you, and it's an instant, okay, I have exactly what I think of that person, instead of being able to listen to you, hear you speak, hear your story, know where you come from, and see how you can add value to my life. We automatically write you off. And that's tough for me, because like the majority of the value of people that hold in my life are all African American men. And those are the people that have helped brought me along and get me to where I am today. But most of the time, I think it's just because people fear that which isn't like them. So how do you, Ms. Dominique, how do you feel our differences as people, especially in the way we look, divide us instead of unite us? Like, why is that a fear that we have?
Thank you for the question. It's really two-part. There is the scientific thing that we all experience as humans. No matter what we do, there's some biological things that take place. So in the limbic system, there are three core parts of the brain. One of them is the limbic system, and specifically the amygdala. That is where our ability to assess and evaluate our surroundings come into place. So before we are even psychologically conscious of our behavior, our body has already put into motion new thing, new person. Is this dangerous or not? So whether we are conscious of anything else, our body already does that. So that's part one. Part two is how we make that assessment is a function of how we are socialized. We live in a nation that that is built on division under the guise of unity. We are not actually practicing what we preach. When I hear about the equality of what the Constitution was trying to do, it was trying to make equality among white men, not among anyone with man or human in their name. It was really for white men at that time. They hadn't considered the LGBT community or black people or things of the sort. So our nation was built on division. So the reason we don't see it is because A, we are not practicing it as individuals. B, it is not societally practiced, and we haven't done the work necessary to see beyond those limitations. It's natural and it's sociological.
Right. I really like that you dived in there, and I mean, I'm a history guy, so when you throw the history and the science, you're like, man, she's really well versed. But I like the fact that you said that the system was not built to have equality around all spectrums. It was just white men, right? But I do think from a history standpoint that they were trying to throw like little nuggets in there of, hey, at sooner or later, the way we practice is going to have to change sooner or later, because systematically we practice this way, but metaphorically we say we're united, right? And I think that was one of the things that was thrown out with how they decided to stop slave trade in 1808 with getting rid of it. And people were like, okay, well, if we don't trade slaves anymore, we'll just breed them, right? And that's how slaves became, more of the population. So I really do like the fact that you threw the history in there. And this is questions actually for both of you ladies. Jane Elliott is a famous teacher. I'm speaking about historians, right? Famous teacher that conducts the brown eye, blue eye experience. And she says it's really rude to tell someone you don't see their color. And I've actually been guilty of this, even in the coaching spectrum. I coached in a white community, and I used to say, I don't see black or white. And she says, it's not fair. It's rude to tell people that you don't see them by the largest living cell on their body, which is their skin. And when you look at that and you say, okay, when you stop telling yourself that fairy tale myth, right? And you start tapping into that unconscious bias that you were just talking about in the brain, what do you, and Dominique, you can start, and then Bianca, you can add to it. What shapes you on how you view people of color?
Oh, wow. You went from microaggressions to how I view people of color. That is not the turn I thought that you were going to make. So microaggressions are subtle slights or insults that take place every day, but typically against a marginalized group. So I actually just taught this last week. The question was, what's a microaggression? And one of the solutions was, or one of the options was, I don't see color when I see people. To not see color when you see a person is to negate their identity. To say, you know what, I don't even know who you are, your background. You're just like me. Actually, I'm not. We're both human, but I have an entirely different experience. So when I think about people of color, repeat the question one more time. I want to make sure I answer it specifically. Just
Yeah.
the last.
When we get rid of this, the fairy tale myth, and we actually face the unconscious bias head on, what shapes you on the view of people of color?
I love the diversity of people of color. Because I grew up in the Midwest and I was socialized to only see us in boxes. When I got out of the Midwest and went to the East Coast and traveled, I got to appreciate the spectrum. So I don't even want the same cultural identities anymore. I'm looking now for different ways of living. So I have an appreciation and understanding and an acknowledgement for that diversity. I want to see it because it gives me more perspective of how I evaluate humanity as a whole.
For me, being a person of color, it's crazy that this question was asked because I was thinking like I would say I don't see color, but you know you have to see color. Like you see it, but I just try to ignore it. Like I don't base how someone looks of how I'm going to treat them. I see it, but I don't act off of it. And so growing up in the South in Alabama, and being a person of color, that's all I really saw a lot of the times, like going home or to a relative's house, everyone there is a person of color. So for me growing up, it was kind of, that's what I expected. Was everywhere I went, those are the type of people that I was seeing. And then going to college, seeing, or going to high school and being around other people of color of different backgrounds and stuff like that, it was just learning like where they come from and the type of person of color that they are and where they come from and the things that they do or go through or their culture and their experiences. So I feel like I have a good range of being exposed to people of color and understanding different type of people and being around them and accepting them for their culture and who they are.
Thank you.
And I think that's important, just accepting people for who they are, because like everybody has something to add, everybody has something of value, and everybody's gonna have a strength for them that we might not even have in our repertoire, might even be our weakness. And so that's why I think we just embracing people for who they are is really the key in building that culture of love. And I know for all of us, everyone has a common goal of being successful, but few understand that necessity for individuality when it comes to being successful, because the people that are successful are those that stand apart from everybody else, from the group. And then everyone is unique in their own way, but we try so hard to make everyone look and act the same. But at the end of the day, like this always results in failure because there's no one person alike. I heard this the other day in math, to find an average, you need two things to find an average, but there's nobody like you. So if you're trying to be average, then you're making that individuality of yourself go away. So how can we as individuals be average? You know what I mean? We're all going to be unique because there's not a second one of us to make an average. So as a society, how do we embrace the uniqueness of every individual and then encourage that diversity? And Bianca, you can start on this one.
I would say everyone just has to be themselves and not be afraid to have their own lane. Like growing up, it's like you see people who are successful and you try to like model yourself after them. Oh, they did this, so I need to do that so I can be successful. But you just have to find your own niche and be able to stand on it and follow that path to wherever it takes you. Because if you're doing something that you're passionate about, you're going to be successful. And success is not determined by everyone else. It's within yourself. So however you measure your success, you will be successful regardless of how other people view it or how it looks on the outside coming from other people.
I'm sorry, I was super vibing with that answer. One thing I would say is be yourself because everybody else is taken. Like you can't be Beyonce because Beyonce is taken. You can't be Michael Jordan and may he rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, because that role was taken. But if you truly reach into yourself and embrace the best of that person, I think that is going to be a gateway to our individual collective prosperity. And then resisting the need to be embraced and loved. I think this modern day of technology has made us attached to the admiration, to the clicks, to the likes. And the faster way to get those likes and those clicks is to do the trendy thing today. But the trendy thing today is individual, to be an individual, to really stand out and to be the best of yourself. So I think we have to practice that and to resist the urge to conform to what society says we should be, and really love on ourselves until we become who we know we can be.
That's so powerful. And I really like the Caitlin, that you brought out the mathematics out there. Once again, we got some science, got, a little bit of history. Now we got the math. And she said, two numbers that are brought together brings you an average, right? But no, who wants to be average, right? We're prime, right? We're prime time. We're prime numbers. There's no one else like us, right? And I like that each one of you said that, be yourself. Don't be attached to the admiration. Don't be attached to the conformity. Just be yourself. And I really think that's cool. Bianca talked about the niche. So what are some potential solutions? So I'm throwing this at both of you. What are some potential solutions to improve Black men and boys in America? But before you answer that question, I do want to go ahead and throw this out there too. I'm blessed to be in the space with 3 wonderful women. You see what I'm saying at this moment? And at this moment, I'm learning, and I'm grappling with some things. But I get to, represent the Black men in this space. And if you look at some of the numbers in America, Black men make up 6% of the population, but we make up 40% of the prison population. We as Black men are looking for solutions. So that's where I'm coming at this question. What solution, potential solutions can we do to improve the view of Black men and boys in America, so we can put our young Black men back into our communities? Dominique, you can start.
I think there's a micro and a macro approach. The micro is the everyday, what you can control. Everything I tell anybody about any type of change you're trying to make in the world, start with you. How do you treat Black men today? How do you interact with Black men? How do you support them? How do you, when I see young Black men on the corner sometimes, and I'm talking about the ones in the hood, the ones, and they're sitting there, I actually might ask them a question. I might talk to them. I don't avoid them. I treat them like they're human. And if I'm sitting in another environment, I'm trying to be conscious of how I interact with them before I impose the macro. Those are the systems that have caused me to interact with them that way. The way the industries portrayed them in media and entertainment, which is one of the largest things we consume nowadays through technology, especially with COVID and us being at home. It's how you interact with them at work, how you interact with them in relationship. How do you as a person navigate and support them? And then at the macro level, what are you doing to make sure you're electing politicians whose position on Black men is favorable to us? What are you doing when you are in, I don't know if you're in student council or if you're in the education system, are you a teacher that has already coined a young Black man with ADD or ADHD? Or have you really tried to understand the emotional ties that might be driving that? It's fighting the system through your tools and resources that are available to you, and really checking your own privilege and identity as you evaluate what it's like to interact with a Black man.
Just playing off what she said, something at the beginning was, I feel like everyone has to go based on their own experiences. You can't just look at what someone else feels about a Black man, or what society feels about Black men, or how other people view them. You have to go based on your own experiences, your own conversations, your own interactions, and just be open. You can't go in with a negative mindset or a pre-existing thought in your head like, oh, Black men are aggressive or they're dangerous. You just have to go in and just be open, experience them for yourselves, and just be ready to listen and hear what they have to say, because Black men have a lot to offer. There are a lot of successful Black men in this world. So we just have to go by your own experience and be able to learn, be willing to learn and to understand and accept everyone. So that's just how I feel about people. In my opinion, a lot of times they just say, oh, this is what's going on in society, so this is what Black men are doing. You just have to be open and willing to understand Black men.
And I just think it's so important when you said go off of your own experiences, and I'm really big on, like, if somebody tells me about somebody or they ask me about somebody, I'll like give them a little bit, but I'm just like, I want you to evaluate them for yourself. Like, I want you to make your own opinion off of them. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to tell you who they are, what they do, and then you take it from there, because I don't want anybody to be clouded by what I think. Because sometimes what we think is driven by our emotion in that time frame, you know, and I may have not have gotten a good first impression, but they're really a great person, and I have to take more time to get to know them. And I think, like, I used to work at the community center, and it's something I used to do every day, because the inner city is not really a most positive environment or a positive place. You know, it's a lot of negativity. And so something I would used to do with my kids or with the boys that would come up there and play basketball, like I would always sit down and have conversations with them. And one of the questions I asked them was, what thing did you do that was positive today? And so I try to see what their goals were, because a lot of times they would tell you, oh, I did good in school, or I have a test coming up, so my positivity was I studied well today, or I got a job today. And so it kind of helps shed light on the great things that they are doing instead of always tearing them down. Or like sometimes I would have kids that would get in trouble a lot at school, and just asking them that question, it would kind of take light off of their ride up at school and help them to see that school was actually fun today amongst all of the little turmoil that they may have had because they were going through something. And I think that's very important, because it then starts to empower people. When you start to look at positivity, you give hope, and hope is something that's empowering. So Bianca, how do you think we can empower the next generation coming up, and then teach them how to break through that cultural look to create a new standard for themselves?
I think it starts with our generation, people my age, because I'm in the age frame where not a lot of people my age have kids yet, or they're not starting families yet. So I feel like we have to be educated within ourselves in order to educate our kids, or we have to learn different things or have these different experiences to be able to teach our kids right from wrong, the correct way that's right and wrong. Because a lot of things come up in your family from things you hear from your parents saying or your grandparents saying, and you don't know, but you're picking up on it, and then you're taking it into adulthood, into your life, and then you're putting that back out into society. So I feel like it starts with yourself. You have to be educated and learn things so you can, when you're talking to your kids or when you're just having casual conversation, they're hearing the right things, so they pick up on it, and then they carry those positive things into adulthood, and then it affects generations after that and keeps going down the cycle.
Yeah.
Dominique, you can tackle that question too.
Yep. Just remind me one more time, just the last end of your statement, Caitlin.
I was just saying, how can we empower the next generation coming up and teach them how to break through the look to create a new standard for themselves?
Yeah, I would echo what Bianca mentioned, which is be the change you want to see, and they have to be a model. The difference, one of the key differentiators between Gen Z and millennials is that they say millennials started a lot of the conversations towards, let me correct that. We pushed forward a lot of the conversations towards justice by making it commonplace to at least talk about it. The generations before us didn't talk about a lot of these things, and then millennials pushed for the conversation. But the Gen Z is pushing for the action. They don't want to just hear the talk. They want to watch you walk the walk. And so in order to get that trust, they have to believe us. And I don't think they do. If you look at gun violence and what happened in school before the pandemic, students are still trying to figure out why 12 years later at the Columbine are we still having to have this conversation? What aren't the generations before us doing to protect us? And why are they not working? So they need to see us be the change that they are aspiring towards. They need to see us fighting for them so they can trust us and work with us together. Part two is we need to empower them and respect their voices. A lot of the changes that have happened in this country started with some of the youngest populations. I mean, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. Our organization was started by people who were in college because they were dealing with the discrimination. A lot of things that happened in this nation started with the younger group. So we need to respect their voices and hear them out and work with them, and not put them in this group of, oh, they're young, they don't get it. No, they see things we don't. And then lastly, working together. If we don't do this together, it will not happen. There are some insights from the earlier generation that the younger generation doesn't have, and vice versa. We have to do this together. We can't do it apart. So be the change you want to see, empower their voices, and work with the younger generation. They are our future.
Right. I like that. One of you guys said that, because, and this is not a question, it's just a follow-up comment, because in my household or in my family, we have those three generations. We have my dad, who was the old school, born in the 60s, born into segregation. you have me, who's that millennial, and then you have my little brother, who's that Gen Z. You know, he's right there on the cusp of Gen Z, and I see it. Like, I could see his voice and his passion, like, multiply, triple our hours. And, you know, my dad used to follow this old hymn of, you know, you may have to endure pain for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And my brother and I talked about that, and he was like, you know, I don't want my joy in the morning. I want mine right now. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with Bianca. I'm okay with the young Caitlin, your generation, by saying, you know what, we have too many shootings, like in Florida with the massive school shooting. We have too many George Floyds. We have too many Trayvon Martins, Breonna Taylors. It's just too much, and it's too many. It's time for action. We want you to start protecting us. So I'm down with Gen Z, and I'm down with, like, hey, if you guys are out here listening, let Coach B know how I can help you, because, you know, I want to support you and move this thing forward. Because, like I said, we pushed the conversation, but we stayed back, and it was an individual thing, like, right? We don't want to lose our judgeship, or, you know, people might be giving us the look. We just kind of want to curve a little bit. But Gen Z's like, I don't care about the look. Like, you know, and guys like LeBron James and guys like, you know, those guys are really you know, Kyrie Irving, they're pushing that agenda, like, yo, like, you know, we want it, and we want it right now. So I'm with you guys on that. Ladies, at the end of our podcast, we come to a huddle. We're coaches, and, you know, we like to huddle up, and we like to, you know, basically just reflect on the day. You know, Bianca, she's smiling at me because she's been in some huddles. She's probably been like the big conversation of a huddle, and been like the low light conversation. But sometimes at the end of the conversation, you just kind of reflect, and, you know, it basically brings it all to an end, so that, you know, we can come back to the space and get at it again the next day. We call it our call to action. So I'm going to allow Caitlin to start, and then I'll let you two ladies go, and then I'll finish up. But we just want to call to action for our listeners of things that they can do, you know, to continue this conversation, and to go past that unconscious bias of the look, and really, you know, start empowering Black men, and, you know, and everyone in our society. Go ahead, Caitlin.
I think my call to action for today would be, go find one person every day that you wouldn't talk to, you wouldn't walk up to, you wouldn't be around, and talk to them for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and see their story and see what they're coming from. Because a lot of times we write people off because they're not like us, and instead you don't really know why they're there or what their situation is. And then being able to see who they really are opens your eyes, and you might learn something new. You might meet somebody new, and you might be able to invest in somebody that you never thought would be possible.
Okay. I said mine would piggyback off yours. I would say in those conversations, go into those conversations and be open, and be willing to carry that with you, and to accept the fact that maybe the things that you were thinking beforehand, and after you have those conversations, don't stick with those, and allow that conversation to educate you, and take it with you, and go forward with it.
When you see someone, especially someone that is unfamiliar to you, look them in the eye and smile anyway. They might have the same feeling about you that you have about them. And in an instant, if you've ever walked into a grocery store or had somebody hold a door open for you, and you look them in the eye and smile, you can physically feel something fade away. Today, I asked for you to look somebody for who they are and embrace them in that moment. And maybe that would be a gateway to opening up connections to other people you may not have ever talked to.
So powerful, man. I hate that I had set myself up and went last. I should have went first. No, ladies, man, thank you for everything. And, you know, mine's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go with start with yourself. And the reason why I'm going to start with yourself is because in this moment this year, and I'll give a quick little 30-second background of it, is I have a nephew that's growing up without a father. And he had a little trouble in school in his first grade. And we're trying to figure out, you know, what's going on with them. You know, everybody's trying to diagnose him with this attention deficit order, this. And, you know, I had a serious talk with his mom, and I said, hey, maybe when he goes into the building, he doesn't see himself. Maybe he sees everybody else, and maybe he's going through an identity crisis of, hey, what do I look like? You know, who am I? So I'm asking everybody to start with yourself and partner up with someone that can help you make that change. And because what I'm doing this moment for my nephew is I'm actually going to be in his life a lot more, in his schooling a lot more, and I'm going to actually really teach him how to be empowered and be this special Black man, not have this look or this attitude over him. So I say, look inside yourself. You know, find 2 or 3 things that you like about yourself and let them shine. You know, if it's your, you know, the way you look, if it's the way you speak, if it's your education, you know, if you're funny, you know, whatever it may be, you have a special talent. I talk to Caitlin about this all the time. You know, God gave us special gifts. So I want you to reach inside yourself, find 3 gifts, work at them, keep empowering yourself, keep being that positive change. You, like Dominique said, man, change starts with you. So let's start that change with you and have a positive outlook. Man, we like to end all of our episodes with special mottos. So I'm gonna let you guys come up with, you know, maybe a famous quote, maybe you know, famous saying that you like to throw out there. If it's a sermon, y'all gonna have to save that for another time. But if you got a small quote, I'll let y'all go. Dominic, you can start us off, and Bianca, you can go. I'll go, and we'll let Caitlin in today.
That is not fair. But Maya Angelou has a quote. Oh, no. It's my roomie quote. I'm going to go with Maya Angelou, although I was going to try to go. Maya Angelou basically says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. We are in a pivotal moment in history. Don't complain about what's going on around you. Think about how you can actually address it. And if you truly can't do anything about it, release it and move on. But do not be an agitator.
I don't have a quote. I can't come up with a quote that fast. I didn't get a heads up without that one.
You have a motto that they say at the end of every practice?
Coach Sue always tells us to be people first. She says that all the time. Be people first.
Perfect.
Because, you know, basketball, it kind of gets in the way of a lot of things. So she just said, be people first. So I'll go with that one.
I like
That's a good one.
Like it. Hey, you can go back and say, look, Coach, you taught me something. You know,
that was an excellent quote.
Thank you.
Coach Britton says, let love be the frequency.
And I'm going to add to the one I always say, but again, don't discount your value because everyone's unique and has something great to offer. And again, don't forget area code 459. Let's be 1% better every day.
That's right. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you. I'm so blessed. Caitlin's blessed. Area code 459 is blessed. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.